Hey y'all, happy Friday! I'm CassB and welcome back to my channel. So in addition to all things custom for bridal and evening wear, we also here in the studio offer bridal alterations. So a little bit more routine, but necessary nonetheless. So 9 times out of 10, my brides, they almost all need to have their dresses hemmed. They're so long and we may cut off anywhere between 4 and 8 inches. So that's a lot of excess fabric. So they're always asking me, what can we do with the excess? And so I give off my list of suggestions. You can wrap it around your bouquet and let it dangle. Very cute. You can also cut it into strips and lay it out for your detail shots for your flat lays for your big day. Or you can also use it in the decor. Wrap it around some hurricane glasses, lots of different fun options. But recently, one of my brides, she says, hey, how much is left over? And if there's enough, can you make me some scrunchies for perhaps my bridal party, or at least, my mom, maybe my mother-in-law? And the answer is a resounding yes. So that's what we're gonna be working on today. Today, let's do a super easy scrunchie tutorial. So let's start with the materials that we have for today. So of course, we cut the hem off, so we're left with this really long, super uneven strip. We're gonna cut it into strips. Today, we're gonna be making medium-sized scrunchies. So you can kind of see the volume at which it's on my hand compared to my hair. You can obviously do this larger, wider, smaller, whatever you wanna do. This is a medium scrunchie. Let's talk about the dimensions. What you're gonna need to do is cut a 2-inch by 22-inch strip. You'll see a lot of videos and they'll go as far as 4 inches wide. That really works too. Be sure to include seam allowance, but I probably wouldn't go much narrower than 2 inches. You're just gonna get this really small scrunched piece. So you have your strip, 2 inches by 22 is what we're working with today. And then we have our elastic. This is like 80 yards of 3/8 of an inch elastic. I got it from Amazon, so the link to that is in my shop. Check that out. So let's talk about it. First step that we're gonna do is we're gonna take our long strip, you're gonna turn it right sides together, and you're gonna stitch this edge close. You can see I actually have some little threads still kind of left in the seam allowance from where I cut this off the hem. All of that will either get enclosed into the seam or we will just remove it. And then I'm gonna stitch mine at 1/2 of an inch. Some people use 3/8 or 5/8. Do whatever you want. So now we have our donut shape, right? We've got our seam in the front. That's kind of where we're gonna start. That's just where I like to start. You don't have to do it that way. What you're gonna wanna do is take your top layer and you're kind of folding it into thirds, okay? And the only reason that you're doing this is because you kind of want to fold it in between these outer layers, and that's where you're going to start to stitch, okay? So I'm going to put a pin there. The goal, and this is key, is to stitch along your outer edge without catching any of the stuff on the inside, okay? So let's start here. I'm going to use about 1/4 of an inch seam allowance just because I did not include enough seam allowance whenever I trimmed these off. Whenever you're using excess materials, you kind of just have to go with measurements as close to your pattern as you can get and go from there. Okay, so from this angle, I think you guys can see it better. We've got our layers that we are stitching, and then we've got the inside that we already folded together. We're gonna keep that in there, and we're not going to catch it as we go all the way around. Okay, so you get to this point, you're not done. What you need to do, and this is also really key, is just keep pulling it through until you get all the way around. Making sure that your sew line is exposed and that other side is tucked neatly inside. You don't want to catch any of that. So it looks kind of crazy right now, but you left that opening so that you could just take the inside and you're just gonna pull it all the way through. All right, so my immediate thought process is to press it. You really don't have to. If you do, you'll end up with like a really creased line on whatever edges that you press. So even though I'm in the practice of doing that in between each step, you really don't have to worry about it. So there's our insertion point. Now let's cut our elastic. Here we go, 3/8 of an inch. This is brand new, so I'm gonna uncoil it. So essentially, I like to do this the actual width of your wrist. So That's probably about 7 inches. Yeah, we're literally right at 7 inches. And because whenever you insert it into a scrunchie, you know, the fabric, the extra tension, it likes to pull it, stretch it out more. So I'm not really gonna worry about adding seam allowance for this to stitch it together. I'm just gonna go ahead and cut. We're gonna take your elastic and we're gonna insert it into our channel here. All right, so now once we get to the outer opening, I'm gonna take my 2 ends and I'm just gonna do a quick little stitch together. If you're on a tabletop sewing machine, you can do a little zigzag stitch, or you can just do whatever stitch you want. I like to just overlap right on top and then do a stitch, but it's, you know, your personal preference, so let's do that. Okay guys, just like that, we're done. We were actually able to make 5 scrunchies from just a little bit of fabric that was left over the bottom. That's gonna be so special. Let me know what you guys think about this, or if you have a better method for making scrunchies. I'm always interested to hear. Let me know what you guys would like to see next on my channel. Leave that in the comments below. Don't forget, of course, to like and subscribe to my channel, and I will see you next week.